Hey guys, welcome back, and for today's video I want to share my first attempt at building dungeon tiles. I have a lot of fantasy skirmish games lined up and I wanted to create a unique battlefield using just tiles, and I've been lurking behind the scenes most of my hobby life, always scared I couldn't make these tiles, but channels like Wylock's Armory and DM Scotty have been such big influences that I wanted to share with you how I created these dungeon tiles, what I learned, and what I want to improve upon in the near future. So this video will show everything I did and what I learned from it. So the materials you're going to need are all from the Dollar Tree. I probably spent a total of $11 to get 7 of these cheap clipboards. These will serve as the base of the dungeon tiles just for some sturdiness and to provide maybe some weight. And then 2 sheets of black poster board. I like this stuff, like every other D&D channel states, easy to peel off and you have easy access to the foam to start getting the texture you need for the tiles. So the first step is just to get some basic measurements. Grab a box cutter and just score the clipboard until you have the shapes you want, and it should snap fairly easily. So moving along, I did miss a step. Once you cut out the clipboard, you're going to cut the same shape from the black poster board, glue it with hot glue, and peel off the black surface. You'll have then the foam exposed. That's when you'll grab a tinfoil ball and you're going to rub it or roll it across the surface of the foam. That way it'll have that stone texture, so when you paint and dry brush, it just comes to life. Once you have that done, you're gonna grab basically a 1 inch by 1 inch square and just start measuring it out onto each tile. Grab a ballpoint pen and just start scoring it. That way you'll have these beautiful looking tiles that honestly take maybe 10 to 15 minutes to knock out each of the tiles. Once I have that, I kind of put in some cracks. I might grab a knife and dig out some holes to fill it with some water effects. It's all up to you guys of how you want to do it. This is my first attempt, so everything was kind of learning and applying everything I've watched throughout the past maybe 5 years. And it's just so therapeutic. So take your time, enjoy it, have some reference photos, and do what makes you happy. And here are just, I guess I'm showing off the texture, but here are some completed tiles, and you can see the light hits all those beautiful stone texture you got from the tinfoil ball. So once you have all the tiles ready, you're going to grab Mod Podge. I had a glossy one. It should be matte, but it doesn't really matter. Grab it, put some paint, I used some black paint, and apply it onto the foam. You need the Mod Podge to prevent the aerosol spray cans from dissolving and eating all the work you've done. So this step probably took the most time. I would say per tile, it could be between 10 to 20 minutes. So just have some music blasting and you'll be fine. After that, you're going to add a little bit of scatter sand to add a bit more depth to each tile. So I grabbed some super glue Loctite, apply just some random shapes, and sprinkle about 3 different sized sands. This way is when you paint the tile, you get some 3-dimensional depth popping off of it. I think without this step, some of the tiles can look a little bit flat. So again, there's no instruction for this. Put it where you think it should go, but don't overdo it. I think in this case, less is definitely more. And once that's done, I actually just grabbed the Army Painter, I think one of their browns. It doesn't really matter what undercoat you use. For my tiles, all of the tiles got a brown base coat, and then because I wanted a lot more color per tile, I just started putting some teals, some green tiles, some traditional gray stone. It all just depends on what look you're aiming for. I don't personally like the pure gray dungeon. I think that can look a little bit boring, and for this step you want to have fun with it and let your imagination run wild. And here are some examples of the various tiles I got from just different colors. So we got, this pure teal one. I think coming up we have teal plus a gray combination. And then I think I have a mosaic one. I lied, it's just a pure gray stone coming up. And this one I did alternate it. So just have fun creating just visually interesting patterns. And such simple patterns can change the whole floor or dungeon and just give some story to it. Now, moving on to the water effects of the tiles. This is something I learned many years ago, I think 8 years ago. To save money, you will buy this 2-part epoxy from Home Depot. I use the Gorilla Glue. You can get this, as I just said, from Home Depot or even Michael's. And you're just gonna follow the instructions, squirt a little bit out, as we don't need much of it. Once you do that, we're gonna grab the little spatula it comes with, or a popsicle stick, and you're gonna stir this for at least a minute, no less than a minute, up to 3 minutes. If you do not mix this properly, it will not dry, and it will be tacky, it'll get very messy, it'll never cure properly. So it is better to overly stir this glue epoxy mix rather than understir it. You will still have plenty of time to play with it. I will say, once you finish stirring it for a minute to 3 minutes, your window of application may be 4 to 5 minutes tops, and that's when it'll start to harden. So this is very fast and basically cheap water effects. So stir it as much as you can. After a certain point, when you feel like the color has changed and you're starting to feel it a little bit harden, I'm gonna grab a wash. I use the Dungeons & Dragon Moldy Wash, and I put about 2 drops into the mix. And at first, you're gonna see it turn a little bit milky. It looks a bit odd. Trust me, it will dry clear. So mix it in for another quick, 20 seconds. Once you have it fully stirred, you're gonna grab the mix and simply guide it / pour it into the divot or hole or whatever you made for the tile or for any other pieces of terrain. Let it sit for about 5 minutes and it should be quote unquote cured. Once it is fully cured, we're gonna come back with some gloss varnish and just put about a layer or 2 just to ensure it is not only sealed but extremely glossy, as you want to give that impression of it being pure water. So here is what the tile should look like once it's completed. And moving along to the very last step, we'll grab the Army Painter Highland Tufts, and you're going to apply pretty much 1 to 5 tufts throughout all the dungeon tiles. This just adds a bit more of that 3-dimensional look to the tile, but adds some color and then just some visual interest. We're no longer going for the realm of realism. It is more of whatever looks cool and looks appealing, go for it. But there you guys have it. Here are all the tiles for my very first attempt at, I guess, dungeon tile / a skirmish board. I will be coming back to these tiles to clean up the edges, as again, lessons learned, I should not have used a box cutter. I should have used a real utility knife. That was lesson number 1. Lesson number 2, actually measure the tiles properly. I used that GW base as a guideline and just started scoring with the ruler. I had the ruler on hand, so I am not entirely sure why I didn't use it properly. And I would say lesson number 3 learned would be paint them a little bit brighter. Once you put the matte varnish, a lot of the colors do get reduced greatly. Now that could be benefit to the dungeon, as it is underground, it is grungy, you have dwellers walking in and out. But personally, I do think the color could be a little bit brighter. But again, for attempt number 1 at dungeon tiles, I am beyond happy. I will be using these in a couple skirmish games coming up, and I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I will be constantly improving these tiles as I had a lot of fun with them, and I'm looking forward to creating doorways, some traps, and even some walls for the future sets. So I hope you guys liked everything. As always, I always appreciate everyone's support and comments.